Here's the prisoner's dilemma model. I have some assumptions that this model is based upon, okay? I'm going to assume that we don't really like to wear masks in public. I think this is a cultural thing. When I was young, through my whole life, I've seen events in Asia or descriptions of things happening on subways in Asia and things like this where they pan the crowd. And people wore masks over there for now decades. Not everyone at any given time, like it has been in the past few months, but people would wear masks culturally more comfortably than here. Around here, I would say in the U.S., usually if you saw someone wearing a mask, you thought either they were really sick and susceptible to something and being very, very precautious, or you thought they were committing a crime or they were extremely odd. Like it's just something we just haven't done the way it's been done in Asia. So culturally, I'm assuming we're averse to masks. And that might be different now. I'm saying when this started, I think culturally, most people would agree that's where we were. I'm also assuming that we really don't like to wear masks in public if other people aren't wearing them. Because then we might be perceived as those latter people that I just described, right? Because nobody wears a mask, but I'm going to wear a mask. You know, it's like a peer pressure thing. I'm going to assume that we really wouldn't like that. Like, if I'm going to wear a mask, I want to be like everybody else wearing a mask. So we're all in this together. That make me look like a weirdo, culturally speaking, by myself. I'm assuming that that's something worse than all of us wearing masks. I'm going to assume that. Maybe I'm wrong, and you can evaluate the model with that. But go along with me so you can understand the model. And if you disagree, that's totally, I don't care. The third assumption I'm making is that we don't actually want to get sick, meaning we don't want a high risk of being infected. Each of us doesn't want to face a high risk of being infected. Okay, so we have this. You already see we face trade-offs, don't we? One of our principles of economics. Another assumption I have is that wearing a mask reduces the wearer's risk only a little, but it benefits others more since if the wearer is sick and doesn't know it yet, he or she is less likely to spread it because of the mask on their face. Okay. And I actually believe this is the way the masks work, and I think the health officials have sort of acknowledged that, but they aren't eager to acknowledge that precisely because of this incentive structure that we're examining now, right? Because what that means is if I wear a mask and it protects you, but it doesn't do much to protect me, I'm not that incentivized to wear the mask. In other words, the best thing is for everyone else to wear a mask and me not to, because then I don't have much risk of getting sick and I don't have to wear a mask, right? But of course, we all face that same structure, which is where we're going. So once we have that structure, then we can have a payoff matrix, okay? And the way it works is like this. Of course, this is in my notes. So I'm talking about at an outbreak, face covering wear without a law making it so. Okay, this is at the beginning of this. What would we have expected going into this? Now we have a law, you can't go in a store without one. So if you're thinking, well, you have to have one to go in a store, I know that. That's why we have the law. What we're going to show is why we have the law. So understand this is in the absence of things changing, and things do change. Okay, so I have it set up, and this is very typical. I said someone like me. I think that's more specific than a lot of times it's prisoner one, prisoner two, or stuff like that. And so we have a choice. Someone like me has a choice. Don't wear a mask or wear a mask. That says don't wear or wear. And then there's me. I don't have to, I could not wear a mask. These are my choices. Don't wear or wear. And if you're thinking, well, you can't go to stores if you don't wear a mask, you're missing the whole point. This is before that was a law. That's a law because of the outcome we're going to find. So this means we have what are called payoffs, outcomes for each of us, the person like me or me, okay? And the way matrix algebra is typically done, it goes, when you see the dimensions of a matrix, it goes row, column, and the payoffs are expressed that way as well. See, if I wear a mask, remember, I don't want to really wear a mask, that's my assumption, then me, being the row here, would enjoy the utility of negative, I suggest, 7. These are utils, like some measure of satisfaction. It's only really useful for comparing things across things on an individual, up or down. So I'm saying here, I really don't like it, negative 7. But because of the reduced risk to the other person, if I wear a mask and they don't wear, they like that, so they might enjoy 8 utils because I'm reducing their risk, because I'm wearing this thing on my face, but they don't have to. So they get to go out and do stuff, and if everybody is wearing masks but them, hey, right? On the other hand, what if I don't wear a mask and they do? Well, now these payoffs are reversed. I get to enjoy 8 and they enjoy negative 7. I hope that's making sense, right? These are payoffs, so negative just means ouch. And then we have some scale because they're numbers, okay? Positive is like a reward, something we like, okay? Now, what happens if neither of us wear masks? That is speaking broadly, neither of these two people nor any other two people and so forth down the road, because we're generally saying that this is us culturally. Well, if no one wears masks, the sickness spreads much more readily, right? So how does that leave everybody in terms of satisfaction? So I suggested that is negative 8 for me and negative 8 for someone like me out there. When we're all, I'm kind of saying we're all kind of like me. I mean, there could be some exceptions, but you know, the token person in the population, U.S. culture. So obviously, this is even worse than what happens if I wear a mask and the other person doesn't wear a mask. But the thing is, again, if I can convince the other person to wear a mask and I don't wear a mask, then I'm not only not worse off, I'm even better off. I'm like, yeah, this is cool. Of course, the ideal thing, we probably have a sense of it thinking about this, is that we all wear masks. And I'm using numbers such as to say that we don't really like that. All wear masks, pain in the butt. But it's not as bad as if we all get sick. I would rather wear a mask and have everybody else wear a mask than to be sick, if those are the two choices, here or here. So I suggested down here, I made these numbers up. I think they make sense. -3, -3. That's where we are now. We're all wearing masks. I'm saying we generally don't really like it, but the alternative that we actually face was up here. And the reason we actually face that is because that's what's called the Nash equilibrium in this prisoner's dilemma. The Nash equilibrium is the outcome such that that is based on each person responding in his or her self-interest with the knowledge of what the other person is going to do. See, if I would like to, ideally I would like to not wear a mask and have the other person wear a mask. The other person realizes that same ideal. So we both go out without masks. Where does that land us? Both worse off. So what does it take to get to the situation where we're less worse off? We might not be better off. I could have put zeros here. I could have even put ones here. Anything lower than the payoff that we could have had would have probably worked. I just think that this is kind of on a scale, maybe where we fall. But down here is the best place to be for us, because if we pursue this, we end up there. So the pursuit of our individual self-interest leaves us worse off. Uh, an easy example that I know that I like to do with I would prefer to do it with micro, but we've been doing it with macro, is the tragedy of the commons, where we have a common grazing area and we each make more money by having more animals in the common grazing area, and precisely because of that, we overgraze the area and land worse off. So that's the prisoner's dilemma in the model. And let me just make sure this is a good breaking point before I put down my whiteboard. I just should probably repeat we get to here by legal requirements. The incentive structure, as it stands till we change culturally or something or find a way to cooperate, is for us to land there. So that's why we have a law saying now in Maryland we have to wear the masks in stores, is precisely because of this. Okay, in my notes I do know what I want to say. Anybody could probably, I think anybody could Monday morning quarterback and say, well, of course we should all be wearing masks. Well, it's real easy to do in hindsight. In foresight, the value of understanding this prisoner's dilemma and this structure of incentives when costs are passed along to others is that you can anticipate that this is where people will go ahead of time. You know, if you think about this. So that's why I think this is a nice application of it. I think I'm going to stop there and then have what will be a fourth and final video wrapping up this stuff.